5 others walk out on bail. A 2-judge bench of Justice Arvind Kumar and Justice N.V. Anjeria has denied bail to Khalid and Imam, holding that the prosecution's material meets the strict threshold of Section 43D5 of the UAPA, India's toughest anti-terror law. Their role, according to Supreme Court, wasn't only episodic. In fact, it was architectural. The court says prima facie the record suggests their involvement at the level of planning, mobilization and issuing strategic directions in what the police describe as a criminal conspiracy. At the same time, the court has granted bail to 5 others accused in the same 2020 Delhi riots case. Gulfisha Fatima, Miran Haider, Shifa ur Rahman, Mohammad Salim Khan and Shadab Ahmed, making it clear that all accused cannot be treated alike and that bail must be assessed individually. This is not acquittal. This is not conviction. This is Supreme Court navigating the narrow, difficult space between national security and personal liberty. The key here is the UAPA bail threshold under Section 43D5. Courts can deny bail if the prosecution's case appears prima facie true. The Supreme Court has once again reiterated a very tough reality. Delay in trial alone does not automatically guarantee bail even under Article 21, while even saying that in this case, the time spent in jail has not passed the constitutional impossibility. In other words, prolonged incarceration is troubling, but statutory safeguards under UAPA override that argument at the bail stage. Importantly, the bench has also left the door open. Both Khalid and Imam can apply again for bail either after protected witness evidence is recorded or after 1 year, whichever is earlier. Remember, these arrests stem from the 2020 Delhi riots case. A quick recap where 50 people were killed. The police alleged the violence was part of a planned conspiracy timed with the then US President Donald Trump's visit to internationalize opposition to the Citizenship Amendment Act. Sharjeel Imam surrendered in January 2020. Umar Khalid was arrested in September 2020 in the middle of the COVID pandemic. Nearly 5 years later, the legal battle continues. The ruling party has triggered sharp political reactions. In fact, the Supreme Court's ruling has triggered sharp political reactions. The BJP has welcomed the verdict, calling it a reaffirmation of the rule of law and demanding accountability from opposition parties that had supported the accused. Union Minister Giriraj Singh went further, controversially comparing Umar Khalid and Imam Sharjeel to those of convicted terrorists. There are others like Civil Liberties Group and legal scholars who say they're alarmed. They argue that detaining accused for over 5 years without trial raises questions. In fact, the opposition has questioned what they are calling prolonged pre-trial, quote-unquote, incarceration. CPIM's MP John Brittas posted on social media, one languishes indefinitely without trial, other enjoys repeated jail vacations on demand. His reference to 15th parole to rape convict self-styled godman Gurmeet Ram Rahim Singh since his conviction. Remember, but one case is under UAPA. The other case is of a self-styled godman being convicted of rape. I'm being joined at this point by Dr. Rajiv Nanda, Senior Advocate with Supreme Court of India, Ellen Rao, who is a former DCP for Delhi, as well as Atikur Rahman, who's an Islamic scholar. Thank you very much, all three of you, for joining me. Well, first to you, Dr. Rajiv Nanda. Let's start with the first main thing that he said, what the court seems to have said at this point. And it is interesting because the court says it's not just about death or destruction. UAPA is also beyond that. It encompasses the disrupting services and economy. This is one of the statements while actually going ahead and refusing bail to both Khalid as well as Imam and saying that their role has been very architectural and not just sectoral.
Yes, of course. Today, Supreme Court has denied them bail both to Khalid and to Sharjeel Imam while granting bail to others, the principle which has been reiterated by Supreme Court today is that these bail matters are not a right. In the normal course, what the law says and the settled law is that bail is the rule and jail is the exception. But here, the court has found that the material placed on record in the charge sheet and the perusal of the case diary shows that these two people were in prima facie involved in the planning, mobilizing, and the strategic planning of the 2020 riots. So the court is of the view that the UAPA law, the anti-terrorist law, being having the stringent measures, so the section 43D5 will apply here, and they will not be entitled to bail. There is yet another thing I must point out that while the trial is still going on, the basic criminal law says that nobody should be granted bail if he or she is in a position to influence the trial. Here, the protected witnesses are yet to be examined. And therefore, the Supreme Court has rightly said that let them be examined or let 1 year be passed. So then it will be decided whether they should be granted, because today they are in a position, or their group, or for that matter, the lobby behind them is apparently very powerful to influence such witnesses or trials. So therefore, they have been denied the right of bail, right, where others have been granted.
Atikur Rahman, if I can get you in at this point, do you agree with how Dr. Rajiv Nanda is interpreting what the court has said?
No, with regards to Mr. Rajiv Nanda, I would like to differ from his opinion. And this is a very moot point, Sneha. That, say, for example, if Mr. Rajiv Nanda says that the witnesses are in absentia. Now, how can Umar Khalid influence the witnesses who are not, he does not know the name of these people? How can he influence? As far as the lobby is concerned, Sneha, let us remind the state, not the judiciary, that we, the taxpayers, Sneha, for 77 long years, we have paid to the government of India to strengthen our nation. And I am thankful for the Supreme Court that national security is such an important aspect in front of the Supreme Court. The same national security, can it be hampered by university students 2 and 5 in numbers?
Okay, no, but here's the thing, Atik, you know, why you raise this question, there's something that the court has said, and it is important to bring this into light. The argument which has been made, whether it be in court or outside the court, has been that it's been a very long stay in jail. The court going on record today saying the stay in jail till now, even though the trial is not completed, is not against the permissible limits of the Constitution. Strong statements by the Supreme Court, by the topmost court, Atik.
Neha, I am not questioning the Supreme Court.
No, we are not questioning. But if you are arguing that everybody, everybody has the right, here the Supreme Court is just nipping it at the bud, saying what's happened with the two of them is very much within the constitutional permits.
Because why the Supreme Court has opined upon this aspect? Because the government pleader, the attorneys have pleaded such a case in front of the judiciary that, and I'm thankful that 5 others have been released. Okay, we are ready for this. Now, what I am pinpointing is the arbitrariness of the state in comparison to individual rights. The International Court of Justice, if tomorrow addressing this particular issue...
Okay, we'll get to that when we reach that bridge, sir. But Dr. Rajiv Nanda, Elendra, allow me a few more minutes. Very quickly, Dr. Rajiv Nanda, how do you respond to what Atik is saying? Because even though what Atik is saying, the court really making several statements very strongly while denying the bail both to Khalid as well as Imam.
See, that is why Supreme Court has said prima facie. These kind of statements or the record should not be influencing the trial eventually. This will never be. These are observations made for denial or grant of bail. Bail means a temporary relief from the jail at the moment. So these are not going to influence the trial at all. Trial will depend on what kind of evidence will be brought by the witnesses or the prosecution otherwise brings in whatever material. Supreme Court has only observed that this is the prima facie, that the planning, mobilizing, and the strategic directions for 2020 riots is being proved against them on the perusal of the material brought. That is all.
Okay. Very quickly, Atik, here's the thing. The fact is the court today did not question the arbitrariness. It could have questioned the arbitrariness. It did not. Why? Because the court very clearly said the initial evidence, prima facie evidence that has been brought to them shows a very architectural role and not an episodic role. And that was used as a basis to deny both of them, Khalid as well as Imam, their bail while giving the other 5 bail. So if you are arguing arbitrariness, that's not holding in line with what the Supreme Court said.
But this particular argument, Sneha, is all the more reason to grant bail because already he was granted a 15-day bail. If he could have influenced, even we as a lobby must have influenced many things, but he was out on bail. This is all the more reason that the Supreme Court, and I'm not questioning. As a law-abiding citizen, I don't have a right to question the Supreme Court. I am questioning how the attorneys placed the case before the Supreme Court.
Rao, if you can come in, Ellen Rao. Atik, you heard both Atikur Rahman as well as Rajiv Nanda make their arguments. As a police official, as a senior police official who's also seen the Delhi riots unfold, how do you look at what's happened in the court? Because usually the court would make some very strong statements, calling out the lapses, particularly when a person has been in jail for a very long time and the trial hasn't completed. That's not what happened in court today.
Good evening, Sneha, to all your viewers and to the co-panelists, and Happy New Year to you all. If we analyze this today's Supreme Court order on bail of Sharjeel and Umar Khalid, we can only say that the Honorable Supreme Court has categorically said that this is a separate case and this is a seriousness of the case, and evidence on record has been analyzed, has been seen by the Honorable judges while passing this order. And these all seriousness and they have also differentiated the role of these 2 other who has not been granted bail and the role of other 5 who have been granted bail. So it shows that the Honorable Supreme Court has a very fair idea about a very fair decision granting bail to the persons who are entitled to that.
No, let me come in. And I want all 3 of you to respond to this. Ellen Rao, to you first. Supreme Court made a very important statement, and I want you to see how you all interpret this because you all are experts in your own realm. The Supreme Court said trial delay is not a trump card to automatically grant bail.
Yes.
A very, very strong statement and interpretation by the Supreme Court, because the argument for the bail was what many have been calling, quote unquote, the incarceration inside jail. But what has the court said? Because there is a trial delay, you do not have a trump card to automatically grant bail. First, Ellen Rao, and then let's go to the other 2 panelists. Ellen Rao?
Yes, Sneha, I also heard that this is the point emphasized by the other parties, but court has categorically said that this is not only the ground, that incarceration is not only the ground. The court has to see other factors also, and that visualizing the video played in the court and then other evidences on record showing that there deep-rooted conspiracy of these 2 for this Israeli riots in 2020. Then it shows that so many people have been, at least more than 40 people were killed and so many hundreds of the people were injured. Both communities, not only one community. So it was a seriousness, and the Kimbler conspiracy aspect was properly analyzed by the Honorable Supreme Court, and this is the only reason. And UAPA Act is also stringent, as you rightly said, that UAPA Section 43, that section is very stringent to grant bail in such type of cases. And particularly when the evidence is on record is so strongly put forward by the prosecution agency. So, in my considered opinion, that the Honorable Court has viewed all these, assessed all the points on the while granting bail to the 5% and
Okay.
not granting these 2%. They are holding that they are more responsible and their role was definitely separate than other fives.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, Atiq, let me just take this question with you, Atiqur Rahman. What do you how do you look at this? A very strong statement, a very strong interpretation from the court that even for what many would call a draconian law like UAPA, it's one of the strongest anti-terror laws that India has, the UAPA. Even for that, the court saying trial delay alone is not something that can automatically grant you or make a ground for bail.
With full regards to the Supreme Court, Sneha.
And I'm talking about the interpretation of the law, not about what the Supreme Court has said.
This is setting a very, very wrong precedent. Because in future, the judiciary, the courts, and the governments can, misuse this part.
No, if you're talking about this one, Atiq, staying with you itself, that's why I'm asking your second question as well. The court went on to say that it's not an automatic trump card. There are other things to be looked into. What are the other things they look? It's not about just death and destruction. You got to see whether this encompasses disrupting services, disrupting the country's economy, and so on and so forth. They go on to explain the different aspects that need to be looked into. Now tell me, how do you disagree with what the court has said? And I'm strictly talking about the interpretation.
Who am I surprised, Neha? All these charges have not been argued on the floor of the court so far. The argument so far was only regarding to bail. So once the charges are framed and argued in the court, then the things will come up. Now this is a very, very disturbing aspect coming from a highest court, because earlier courts have opined upon more upon individual freedom rather than not granting bail.
Okay.
What shall we believe in it?
Rajiv Nanda come in at this point, because Atiqur Rahman saying that this has been very disturbing for him and for others. But the fact remains that how can you decide on a bail under UAPA, a very, very strict law, a very strong law with very strong tooth? How do you decide for a bail under that law without really looking into the charges, evidence or accusations, allegations in this particular case? Respond to Atiq.
You first raised the interpretation regarding delay in the trial and the incarceration, the so-called incarceration. See, delay in trial per se in the normal course of a criminal law, yes, is a good valid reason for seeking bail, and courts have been granting bail when there is a delay in the trial and perhaps which is not attributed to the accused himself. But here, this is not the case. There are two things which the Supreme Court has kept in mind, perhaps. That is, this delay cannot be attributed, one, to the prosecution. It is the accused himself who've been seeking adjournments, and that's causing delay. That's the first part of it. Second part of it is delay per se will not be entitling them to bail, because these are anti-terrorist laws. And prima facie, when there is material on record in the form of charge sheets, so we cannot say that there is no material or very limited material or limited evidence is available. There is evidence in the form of documents or other statements which have been recorded during the investigation, which are there in the form of case diary and the reports which have been filed in the Supreme Court, which are good enough to deny bail even if there is a delay. So delay.
I think, do you want to respond to this? Because let's face the fact, you are questioning this. I think you are saying that why get into evidence? The charges have not been even framed. Why get into evidence at this stage? But the fact is, the other five in this case have got what they have got in terms of a bail because of the limited evidence against them, which was not, according to the Supreme Court, the case for the two. And the Supreme Court calls both of these people, Khalid, Umar Khalid, as well as Sharjeel Imam, as on two very different qualitative footings. I'm not using this. These are quotes by the Supreme Court.
Sneha, I'm just putting my case, saying that so far in the past 15 years, 20 years, our courts, especially the Supreme Court, has given us relief that they have coined their argument that bail is the rule and jail is an exception. Now, this is overturned by the same court. What shall I believe? What shall I teach my students of political science? What is the belief of the Supreme Court? Jail or bail? Incarceration or the long trial?
But isn't
What
that
shall I
simple?
teach?
Isn't that simple? Basically, the court is saying today that it is not black and white. Ellen Rao?
Yeah, only saying that this incarceration is only the ground that cannot be held a ground for bail, definitely, because this UAP Act is also there. Seriousness of the evidence is available on record. The court has pursued everything on that, and the prosecution has so many evidences in form of the electronic evidence as well as in statement of the witnesses, and all these things are available. And particularly, I'm not saying that the charges has not been, that is also a wrong statement. I think charges have been framed and the case must be on trial and prosecution evidence is maybe going on. And that's why the court has said that the evidences of the protective person should be recorded first.
Atik, quick response, and then I want to go to my last question. Quick response, Atik.
With a heavy heart, I will have to accept this, that so far individual liberty was important to the courts, and suddenly I am being taught by the Supreme Court, no, the circumstances must be different. I will take this Ismail by stride, Sneha, and along with this, I would argue on the Supreme Court's part that international justice demands justice for individuals, not the state, which can be arbitrary.
Okay, in this case, the court even addressed that. Court actually went on to address that as well in individual liberty versus the act against the state. Court actually went on to say that and said the both needs to be seen, and it's not only about individual liberty. But very quickly at this point, let me just bring in what some people in the opposition are saying. Ellen Rao, you may be the best person to respond to this. You have MP John Brittas, who today put out the fact, a social media post saying that here you have two people who are continuing to be in jail, and the other side you have another self-styled godman who is coming out. The two cases very different, but how would you explain a post like this as a police personnel?
Yes, the offences against both these persons are definitely separate. That godman, so-called godman, is not against the state. Here is that these two people are charged with the allegations of this sedition and then UAP Act, the very stringent law of our land. Okay. So we cannot compare these two with that. And then moreover, the interim bail also, Mr. Umar Khalid has also been granted interim bail last year. That is separate.
All right.
Bail, regular bail and interim bail, both are two separate grounds. Separate. These things are considered separately, and the grounds on these bails are also.
Okay, we're totally out of time, sir. We're totally out of time.
Every time.
I think you quickly, both of you, maybe 15 seconds. Atik, to you, then Dr. Rajiv. Quickly, 15 seconds each.
No, Mr. Rao, that's why the people need to understand that the state, if it is forming a law, the individual entity of a woman is more important, rather than the state. If somebody is, attacking a state for national security issues, here Baba Ram Rahim has attacked an entity of a woman. Are both not, similar?
Okay. All right. Time up. Dr. Rajiv, quickly.
Yes, it is. Both the cases are incomparable. You can't compare oranges with apple. They are, of course, Ram Rahim's offense is very serious, but then that is not against the state. Mind it, these two have been charged with terrorism and destabilizing the state. This is the entire country involved.
All right.
These are not ordinary crime, which Ram Rahim has been charged with.
Okay, I think a very important judgment from the Supreme Court today. Also, as an anchor, I just don't intend to equate or justify what's happening with the self-styled godmen as well. That's a different debate. That's a different story altogether. But nonetheless, this is something that we will be watching very closely. To our panelists, Dr. Rajiv, Ellen Rao, as well as Atikur Rahman, thank you very much for your time. Time for a very short break. On the other side, a lot's happening in the United States, and it's not just about the arrest of a Venezuelan president.
A resurgent India is racing towards the Viksit Bharat goal, braving global economic headwinds. Bulletproofing our economy from these uncertainties are Bharat's homegrown businesses. Powered by tech-led innovation, Indian entrepreneurs are truly scaling up, riding the next wave of disruption with AI and cloud to break into the big global league. TV9 Network in association with SAP presents Visionaries of Viksit Bharat, a series celebrating inspirational business leaders shaping tomorrow. Watch them take an iconic leap at Visionaries of Viksit Bharat conclaves. Exclusively on News9.
This isn't a trail of peace. This is pressure overload. A hill built for 1,000, forced to carry lakhs.
Instead of lightening the footprint, you have allowed people to actually get into every nook and corner of the Himalayas.
Careless travel, choking hills. If we don't change now, there won't be much left to enjoy.
We need to follow the Bhutan model, regulate people who can access hills.
News9 presents Heal the Hills, continuous coverage.
Light, camera, and action. Kick back, relax, grab your favorite snack because News9 is here with your weekend dose of entertainment. It's time to take a deeper dive into the buzzworthy happenings of the entertainment world. From celebrity gossips to exclusive conversations, from nostalgic moments to News9's pick of the week, don't worry, we've got you covered here. And I hope you've grabbed your popcorn by now because News9's page 3 is here to serve you everything that we call entertainment. So do stay tuned every Saturday and Sunday, 2:30 p.m.
Being a chef, it's my priority to deliver taste in a plate with good presentation, unique innovation. You need to explore, you need to experiment.
You observe the people, make them happy, make them feel happy, and in the end you are smiling. That's the most important thing.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Our focus, our deep dive, number 2, oil double standards of the United States. It's nothing but gunboat diplomacy at center stage. What's this about? Let's talk about USA. Let's just drop the diplomacy for now, because this is raw power politics. When America wants oil, it sends force. When India buys oil, it gets tariffs, threats and sermons, like most countries across the world. Well, on Saturday, United States forces carried out a large-scale strike, what they called was unprecedented since the World War II, on Venezuela, capturing its president, Nicolas Maduro. Why Venezuela? It is home to the largest oil reserves on earth. For years, it has been under US sanctions, crippling its economy and oil exports. For weeks, United States President Donald Trump and his officials have been saying that its military posturing against Venezuela is aimed at countering the flow of narcotics or narco-terrorism. As now, the Venezuelan president has been indicted of, and he is at a New York court as we speak. But now, in Trump's own words, in the aftermath of abduction of President Nicolas Maduro, suggests that Washington's true interest lies in Venezuela's vast proven oil reserves. Trump has declared that America will now run Venezuela until a so-called transition. And then comes the money line. US oil companies will rebuild and make money. Not elections first, not institutions first, oil companies first. Venezuela has called it military aggression, declared a national emergency and rejected the removal outright. But then, this USA move is not new. Iraq, Libya, Venezuela, Iran, time and again, oil-rich nations outside the United States' sphere of influence have faced sanctions, regime pressure, military intervention, or economic isolation. The message has been implicit, sometimes explicit. Energy security for America is non-negotiable. And this comes just months after a tariff tirade by Donald Trump against nations for buying oil from countries he doesn't approve, or for imposing taxes on United States he thinks is unproportionally high. India imports over 85% of its crude oil. To protect its economy and citizens, India buys oil from where it is cheaper, Russia, the Middle East, anywhere that the market allows, and is in the best interest, the national interest of the country. Well, like many nations, the United States has tried arm twisting with tariff threats, sanction pressures, moral lectures. So here's a question the world cannot dodge. Which part of international law allows one country to remove another country's president and say, we will run you now? This is not just about Venezuela. This is the world order cracking. In fact, a new world order emerging. Well, I've got guests with me, but before that, a quick breaking that's coming in at this point. The United Nations has raised serious concerns over the growing crisis in Venezuela following the United States capture of President Nicolas Maduro. United Nations Secretary General has warned that the development could intensify instability with Venezuela and have wider consequences for the region. Speaking to the United Nations Security Council in New York,
potential impact on the region.
Secretary General has said he's deeply concerned about the potential fallout and the precedent such actions could set for relations between nations. The comments come just hours before Maduro was scheduled to appear in a Manhattan federal court on U.S. drug-related charges, which he has strongly denied. In fact, the United Nations Secretary General has also questioned the legality of the U.S. operation carried out in Caracas, saying it may not have respected international law, calling for restraint. The United Nations chief urged all Venezuelan stakeholders to engage in inclusive and democratic dialogue and said the United Nations stands ready to support a peaceful path forward for the country. And I'm being joined at this point by Ambassador Jayant Das Gupta, former ambassador to WTO, Manish Chand, who is the CEO for Center for Global India Insights. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining me. Ambassador, straight to you first. I mean, look at the three things that are happening. One, what the United States has done with Venezuela. Two, this comes just months after the tariff tirade against several countries, including India. And three, what's happening at the United Nations Security Council. Can the three be separated? Can the three be seen as separate, distinct identities? Can the tariff tirade be seen isolated, separate from what's happened in Venezuela?
I think there is a connection at a non-visible level because ultimately the US is concerned about two or three very important developments happening in other parts of the world. One is de-dollarization. The US runs a very sizable trade deficit. It keeps printing money, and this can also be traced to the 1974 agreement between countries led by Saudi Arabia and Henry Kissinger, then Secretary of State, which said that the oil prices will henceforth only be denominated, the OPEC oil prices will be denominated only in dollars and traded in dollars. Now that led to the US being secure in printing more and more dollars and the rest of the world, in a sense, paying for the US dollars and putting their earnings in US dollars back into the US in the case of many countries in US securities. So the US constantly kept running up a deficit and merrily spending more than what it earned. Now this has led to a situation where the US debt is much more than its GDP and it is reaching unsustainable levels. And one of the things which the US would like to have is to maintain the dollar's predominant position as the currency which determines global trade flows. The Venezuelans, for instance, had entered into a contract very recently for $18 billion of oil supply to China. The Libyans, many decades ago, had talked about floating a golden dinar for Africa, which would act as the currency for trade in oil. Similarly, Iraq also had threatened to, Saddam Hussein had threatened to start trading in non-dollar currencies. Now, these are all in a sense related, as experts are showing. And in the case of the US, many of its refineries are dependent on heavy crude, whereas the US shale, which is being produced in the US, is light crude, which cannot be refined by these refineries. So in order to get benefits from the investments, huge investments which have been made in the US refining sector, they need heavy crude, and that heavy crude comes from Venezuela and Canada to a great extent. So these, and mind you, President Trump has also, I think, reiterated the threat to Mexico and Cuba. And Canada has not exactly been receiving friendly vibes from the Americans of late. So it is all related. It is basically about energy security, about running its own refineries dependent on heavy crude from Venezuela, and it is and the kind of threats that are being issued to other countries, Mexico.
Right.
So I think it is all of a piece.
Manish Chand, it's all of a piece. I mean, look at the visuals that we are playing out on our screens that the world is really looking at. You have Maduro, being arrested. He's handcuffed. He's being taken to the New York court. He's being arrested and escorted by the US servicemen, as it were. These are scenes that several generations have not seen. These are scenes that, the might that was flexed by United States was unprecedented since World War II, something that Trump himself claims. What does Trump politics really mean at this time? Forget about democracy. This seems to be torpedoing all international laws.
Yes, so what we are seeing right now is the return of imperialism with a vengeance, The return of might is right. The naked use of force. If you look at it, this is like totally unacceptable. The international public humiliation of a leader of a country. Now you may question, whatever else. We've known the history where US has patronized any number of dictators, but it's like whether it's US dictator or it's somebody US doesn't like. And there's a whole history of this. In Iraq's case, they concocted weapons of mass destruction to get rid of Saddam Hussein. Of course, it is not the similar situation. But what we are seeing now is a brutal unilateralism, brazen unilateralism, use of force to alter. What we are seeing is not rules-based international order. I would consider it the death of international rules-based international order. It is a new world disorder, in a manner of speaking, and where force and coercion.
Why you're saying this thing? I mean, let me just bring this other aspect in as well. Look at countries that have faced the tariffs. I mean, look at India for that matter. America was not just upset that India was not importing as much as America wanted. America was upset that we were importing so much from other countries, including Russia. And you have this mocking way of Donald Trump speaking for what should be a very diplomatic move. And then you have an outright brute use of force, again, for oil. This seems to be just, how do you explain this in the international scenario? This just seems to be beyond double standards. There's no standards.
Yeah, they were right. I mean, basically, this is Trump's style of functioning. Either you're with me or against me. It's reminiscent of that kind of logic. And you look at everyone, the way he has been victimizing countries left, right, and center with impossible onerous tariffs and the glib manner in which he speaks, For example, the latest clip we saw today where he said that, India stopped buying or India is cutting down on buying Russian oil because Mr. Modi wants to make me happy. I mean, where a diplomatic nicety is involved here. So it is basically ruled by, it's hubris. It's saying that either you fall in line or you suffer. That's exactly the message he has sent via this very vivid sort of demonstration of force. It was not just Venezuela, which he has in sight. It is, he has threatened Cuba, he has threatened Mexico. In fact, it's a message to the entire world, that those countries or those who defy the United States will not get away, will not be allowed to go unpunished. So, I mean, what do you call this? I mean, we are in a world, where, to use the old-fashioned analogy, I mean, where might is right, So, I mean, America is the most powerful country, economically, militarily. It want to impose, and as Ambassador Jain was saying, it's about energy security, but is this the way to do oil grab? I mean, US refineries may want heavy crude. So you go and, seize another country, you capture it by force, their leader. So this is like resource nationalism,
right?
Going to the other extreme. I don't know where it's going to end. And it has sent definitely a very wrong precedent.
You're right. It's going to be hard to say where this is going to end, because at the end of the day, right now, even as we are speaking, there's a lot happening in United States itself. There's a New York court where the president has been produced, Venezuelan president has been produced for charges and he has been indicted already for narco-terrorism, as it were. You have UNSC, which obviously Donald Trump in the past has completely demolished in his own style, trying to make a statement for what he has done against Venezuela. But thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. We're totally out of time. Ambassador Jayan Das Gupta, thank you very much. Manish Chand, thank you very much. Well, moving on for now. Cricket and politics are colliding sharply in South Asia. Bangladesh has announced an indefinite ban on the telecast of the Indian Premier League and refused to play its ICC T20 World Cup matches in India. Bangladesh's Information and Broadcasting Ministry confirmed all IPL broadcasts have been pulled. The trigger was Kolkata Knight Riders releasing Bangladeshi pacer Mustafizur Rahman for the 2026 season. In action, Dhaka claims followed Indian Cricket Board pressure and hurt public sentiment. Youth and Sports Advisor Asif Nazrul, part of the Mohammad Yunus-led interim government, said he formally sought the ban, warning Bangladesh will not go to India to play the World Cup. The Bangladesh Cricket Board took this decision. I welcome this decision. The standoff has now widened. Bangladesh has officially declined to play its T20 World Cup matches in India, a rare escalation in cricket diplomacy. Bangladesh is scheduled to play 4 group games in India, 3 in Kolkata and 1 in Mumbai. Dhaka is now set to approach the ICC to shift all matches to Sri Lanka, abandoning earlier venue change requests. Indian cricket officials have warned that relocating fixtures at this stage would be extremely difficult. Mustafizur Rahman has reacted, saying he was disappointed by his IPL release but had no control over the decision. The controversy has drawn political reactions in India too. Congress MP Shashi Tharoor has termed the move unwise, stressing that sport should not be made to carry the burden of political tensions. Let's listen in.
I've made my view very clear on this from the start. I've argued for some time that sport should be kept apart from politics, or rather that sport should not be made to bear the principal burden of political failures. The fact of the matter is that there are many other ways in which we are dealing with Bangladesh, as we have to. Our foreign minister was just there. So the BCCI had already once approved him. To now pull him back after he has been recruited and so on seems to me to be in very bad taste. It's also troubling.
And Indore killed 15 people. After 15 people were killed in Indore people over contaminated water. It's Gandhinagar and Bengaluru now that have been hit with a waterborne outbreak. In Gujarat's Gandhinagar, a waterborne outbreak has hit sectors 24, 26 and 28, largely tribal areas, after sewage mixed with drinking water, leading to a spike in typhoid cases. Over the past few days, residents reported high fever and gastro illness. Officials say more than 10 pipelines leaked, allowed sewage to enter the potable water networks. At least 104 patients are under treatment, 42 of them admitted to the civil hospital. A 22-member medical team has been deployed, surveillance intensified, and the municipal corporation has promised a clean water supply project within 10 to 15 days. The situation has... In fact, the rush continued even outside the cafe, where large numbers of fans surrounded the couple near their car, pushing and shoving, following as people tried to catch a glimpse. The actor has been requesting space until Sneha entered the vehicle safely. He then briefly waved to fans before leaving the scene. The incident comes just days after similar crowding episodes involving actors Thalapathy, Vijay, as well as Samantha, Ruth, Prabhu and Nidhi Agarwal, raising fresh questions about celebrity safety in public spaces. As star sightings increasingly turn into security scares, are fan frenzy and public safety heading for a dangerous collision? Well, Bali may soon require foreign tourists to show proof of funds before entering the island. The draft rule aims to ensure visitors can support themselves, prevent illegal work overstays and unsafe behavior, and promote quality tourism. Travelers could be asked to provide bank statements for the past 3 months. There's no fixed amount. What's reasonable will depend on the length and type of trip. Authorities may also check return tickets and travel plans. The government says the move will support local businesses and particularly small shop cafes, tourist workers, by attracting visitors who spend responsibly. Officials also hope it encourages tourists to respect local culture, laws and traditions. Concerns remain for budget travelers, backpackers and digital nomads, who may struggle to meet requirements for longer stays, potentially changing Bali's tourist profile. The regulation is still under review. If approved, travelers may soon need bank statements, return tickets and detailed travel plans, aiming for safer, more responsible and community-friendly tourism. Well, a tragic case from the United States has left the Indian community in shock. Nikita Godishala, a 27-year-old woman from Ellicott City, Maryland, who went missing on New Year's Eve, was found dead in her ex-boyfriend's apartment with multiple stab wounds. Police say Nikita's ex, Arjun Sharma, filed a missing person report claiming he last saw her on December 31st, the same day investigators believe she was killed. Shockingly, Sharma then fled the country on a flight to India, and authorities have now obtained a warrant for his arrest on first and second degree murder charges. Howard County police are coordinating with US federal agencies and Interpol to track Sharma, who is now facing an international manhunt. The Indian Embassy in the United States has extended full consular support to Godishala's family and is closely following the investigation with no clear motive yet. And the investigation ongoing, the case has raised serious concerns over premeditated violence and cross-border fugitive. The mother has spoken.
बेटी का नाम निकिता है। रूममेट से 4 जने रहते थे। अभी मेरा बेटी उसको मालूम पड़ा वो तो पूरा खर्चा कर दिए पूरे। मेरा बेटी से भी पैसे पूछ लिया उन्होंने। इंडिया जा रहा बोलते मालूम तो फोन करा था, आओ पैसा दे तुम बोल के अटेंड करके भाग गया। उत्तरी गवर्नमेंट से और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट से और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से विनती करता हूँ मेरा बेटी का बॉडी जल्दी दे दीजिए।
Well, that's a story that we will follow very closely. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for you in this bulletin. Thank you for watching Unmissable.
(2026) Take notes. Manifesting. For my little Miss Sunshine. Tickles and giggles. Also want to be a biker chick this time.